Russia's foreign minister stood in New Delhi 2 days ago, in front of the world's cameras, and said something extraordinary. He said Pakistan is handling the short-term crisis. But for a lasting peace in West Asia, India is the country the world should turn to. India. Not America. Not China. Not the United Nations. India. The question is, does India have the will, the credibility, and the skill to actually do it? And is Pakistan, which grabbed this mediator role from under India's nose, already too far ahead to be overtaken? Welcome to BharatLens. On May 14th and 15th, New Delhi hosted the BRICS foreign ministers meeting at Bharat Mandapam. In the room were the foreign ministers of Iran, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, the UAE, and a dozen other nations. China's foreign minister was absent, because he was in Beijing for Trump's visit. The meeting ended without a joint statement, because Iran and the UAE, both BRICS members, are on opposite sides of a live war. And yet, out of this complicated, fractured, contentious gathering, emerged one clear signal. Russia publicly endorsed India as the ideal long-term mediator for the Iran war. It is one of the most significant diplomatic endorsements India has received in years. Today on BharatLens, we break down exactly what happened, what Russia said, why Pakistan is already ahead, what Modi is doing about it, and whether India can actually end the war that is costing it billions every week. Let us start with the exact statement. Because the words matter. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, addressing a media briefing after the BRICS foreign ministers meeting, said that Pakistan is helping establish dialogues between the US and Iran to resolve urgent problems, but that if the world seeks a long-term mediator between Iran and its Arab friends, this role could be played by India, considering its vast diplomatic experience. Penn State Lavrov said India, as BRICS president, could offer its good offices and invite Iran and the UAE to hold talks to avoid hostility. He argued that outside actors were fueling tensions to create further instability between Iran and Arab countries. The interpreter now here is why this endorsement is significant on multiple levels. First, it comes from Russia. Russia is Iran's most important diplomatic protector. If Moscow says India should mediate, Tehran will take that seriously. Russia has skin in this game. It wants the war to end because the disruption to global energy markets is complicating Russia's own oil revenues. Moscow's endorsement of India is not casual. It is calculated. Second, Lavrov specifically distinguished between Pakistan's role and India's role. He said Pakistan was presently helping facilitate immediate dialogue between Washington and Tehran, but indicated that India would be better positioned for a broader and more sustainable diplomatic role in the region. He is not dismissing Pakistan. He is categorizing Pakistan as a short-term crisis manager and India as a long-term peace architect. That is a very deliberate framing, and one that flatters India enormously. Penn State third, diplomatic observers have viewed Russia's endorsement as a strategic signal within BRICS, highlighting India's growing influence in global conflict resolution. This is not just about the Iran war. It is about the narrative of what kind of power India is becoming. But before we get too celebratory, let us look honestly at what happened at the BRICS meeting itself. Because it was not a smooth success for India. The meeting kicked off with India's Foreign Minister Jaishankar calling for safe, unimpeded maritime flows through international waters, as the Strait of Hormuz remains under blockade. Iranian Foreign Minister Araghchi called on fellow BRICS member states to condemn the US and Israel over what he called their unlawful aggression against Tehran. Chatham House. The central diplomatic challenge at the New Delhi meeting was whether members representing fundamentally opposed positions could produce a unified public statement. Iran was actively seeking BRICS member support for statements condemning the US-Israeli military campaign. The UAE, also a member, was diplomatically aligned in opposition to Iranian military activity, particularly following strikes on Fujairah port on UAE territory. South China Morning Post. The result? The BRICS talks ended without a joint statement, exposing divisions over the war in Iran. India, as chair, issued its own statement, but the bloc itself could not produce consensus language. That is a failure of collective diplomacy, even if it reflects the impossible position India was put in as host. Daily Parliament Times. India has faced criticism over its response to the conflict. Prime Minister Modi had visited Tel Aviv shortly before the Israeli and American strikes on Iran. Questions were also raised after India's delayed reaction following the death of Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Every other BRICS founding member, Russia, China and Brazil, quickly denounced the war. India alone seemed to be condoning it with silence. That silence has a cost. It damaged India's credibility with Tehran precisely at the moment when India needs Iran to trust it as a potential mediator. Now let us talk about the uncomfortable reality that every Indian strategic thinker is wrestling with. Pakistan got there first. Following the announcement of a 2-week ceasefire between the US, Israel and Iran, mediated by Pakistan, observers noted that India is experiencing some heartburn over Pakistan's visible role in negotiating the ceasefire between Iran and the US, a challenge to its own ambitions as the South Asian regional hegemon. PBS. The emergence of Pakistan, alongside Egypt and Turkey, as a primary back-channel interlocutor between Iran and the United States is a stinging strategic setback for New Delhi. PBS. How did Pakistan pull this off? The same way it always does. Pakistan positioned itself as indispensable to Washington at a moment of American need. When Trump wanted to de-escalate with Iran but couldn't talk directly, Pakistan made the call. Pakistan's Army Chief Munir had the relationships, the access, and the willingness to play the role. India, constrained by its relationship with Israel, by its silence on the strikes, and by its hesitation to pick a side, was not in a position to make that same call. Modi-Trump ties are being tested by Pakistan's peacemaker role in the Iran war. That is the geopolitical irony of this moment. India's strategic partnership with America, which it spent 20 years building, is being complicated by the fact that America's most useful crisis partner right now is India's most hostile neighbor. But here is where the story gets more balanced. Because India is not sitting still. While BRICS was happening in New Delhi, Modi flew to Abu Dhabi. India and the UAE agreed the framework for a strategic defense partnership, and signed pacts on strategic petroleum reserves and supply of liquefied petroleum gas during Modi's visit. The two sides agreed on deepening defense industrial collaboration and cooperation on innovation and advanced technology, training, exercises, maritime security, cyber defense, secure communications and information exchange. YouTube. The oil pact includes a potential increase of ADNOC's crude oil storage in India for up to 30 million barrels, and explores potential crude storage in the UAE's Fujairah as part of India's strategic reserve. YouTube. This is critically important. The UAE is both a BRICS member and one of the countries that Iran has struck during the war. Iranian missiles hit Fujairah port. The UAE is furious at Iran. And India has just signed a strategic defense partnership with the UAE, the same country India is supposed to bring to the table with Iran. Modi is not just visiting the UAE for energy deals. He is positioning India as the UAE's trusted partner, building the credibility with Abu Dhabi that any eventual India-mediated dialogue between Iran and the Gulf states will require. Meanwhile, Jaishankar shook hands with Iran's Foreign Minister Araghchi at Bharat Mandapam. Araghchi held separate meetings with Indian officials at the BRICS gathering. The channel to Tehran is open. India has not burned its bridges with Iran, despite the criticism of its silence on the initial strikes. The communication is alive. Chatham House in India, as BRICS chair this year, can shape which issues are foregrounded and how discussions are framed. That chairmanship comes with real leverage. The Leaders' Summit, where Modi himself will preside, comes later in 2026. Every foreign minister meeting now is preparation for that summit. India is playing a long game. Now let us be honest about what India can and cannot do. Because this is BharatLens, and we do not deal in comfortable fantasy. India has genuine assets as a mediator. It has maintained diplomatic relations with Iran throughout the war, unlike most Western nations. It has deep energy and trade ties with the UAE, Saudi Arabia, and the Gulf broadly. It has a working relationship with the United States and with Russia simultaneously, a combination no other major power currently has. It is the BRICS chair. It has 1 crore citizens living in Gulf countries whose safety and livelihoods depend on regional stability. Its economy is being directly hammered by the war, which gives it powerful, genuine motivation. And it has a prime minister who has shown, in the India-Pakistan ceasefire of 2025, that he can deliver military de-escalation without foreign intervention. But India also has liabilities. Its silence on the initial US-Israeli strikes damaged its credibility with Tehran. Its relationship with Israel, one of India's largest defense partners, is a complicating factor that Iran watches closely. Tehran reacted to reports of Modi's visit to Israel shortly before the strikes, with Araghchi saying any collusion with Israel was unforgivable. India has to rebuild trust with Iran before it can claim the mediator's chair, and that trust was damaged by India's studied ambiguity in February and March. Pakistan has already established the immediate ceasefire channel. That is a concrete, visible achievement that India cannot undo. What Lavrov has offered India is a different, longer-term role, as architect of a sustainable regional settlement between Iran and its Arab neighbors. That is a bigger, more complex, and more meaningful role. But it requires India to actually commit to it publicly and urgently, not to keep hedging. Here is the central argument that India's foreign policy establishment must internalize right now. The window for India to claim the mediator role is narrow and closing. If the Iran war ends quickly, through a Pakistani-mediated deal or a Trump-Xi-Beijing arrangement, India loses the opportunity entirely. The story writes itself without India in it. If the war drags on into June and July, as now seems likely given that Trump called Iran's latest counterproposal totally unacceptable, there will be enormous international pressure for a new diplomatic framework. That is India's window. To seize it, India needs to do 3 things simultaneously. First, formally and publicly declare its willingness to host direct talks between Iran and the UAE under BRICS auspices. Not hint at it. Not allow it to be read between the lines of a chair's statement. Declare it. Second, Modi needs to call Iran's President Pezeshkian directly and publicly, the same way he called Netanyahu, the same way he calls Trump, the same way he called the Gulf leaders. That call, reported on the record, signals to Tehran that India's engagement is genuine and at the highest level. Third, India needs to stop hedging on its position toward the conflict itself. Strategic ambiguity has served India in some contexts. On this issue, it is costing India more than it is gaining. Russia has handed India a public endorsement. Finland's president earlier highlighted India's capability to bridge Washington and Tehran. The world is looking for an alternative mediator beyond Pakistan. India has every credential, except the willingness to be seen to try. Russia said it. Finland said it. The logic of India's position says it. India is uniquely placed to end the Iran war, or at least to build a sustainable regional framework that outlasts whatever short-term ceasefire Pakistan manages to broker. The cost of the war to India is already catastrophic: milk prices rising, gold duties doubled, rupee at a record low, forex reserves draining by billions every week. India has more skin in ending this war than almost any country on earth except Iran itself. That motivation should be India's loudest argument for the mediator's chair. But motivation is not enough. Diplomacy requires courage, the courage to take a visible position, to make a public call, to risk a deal falling apart and being blamed for it. Pakistan took that risk. And it paid off. India, which has more credibility, more relationships, and more leverage than Pakistan could dream of, is still waiting to see how the situation develops. Here is the question I leave you with. Russia has publicly endorsed India as the peace architect for West Asia. The entire world is watching to see what Modi does with that endorsement. Does India step forward, or does it wait for the moment to pass? Because history does not offer these windows twice. Tell me in the comments, should India formally step up as mediator? Or is this a trap that gives India responsibility without power? And if BharatLens gives you the analysis that nobody else will, you know what to do.